How to speed read full course. Here's how to speed read. Here's my trade offer for your time. You get a superpower 99% of people do not have. Now this video has my life's work for the last 3 years, so buckle in. Here's how your training works today. First, we measure your reading speed and comprehension. Then we train. Third, the 10 most common comprehension blockers. Fourth, 3 secret lies about reading you probably believe. Uncovering these 3 lies answers these common questions. Fifth, a final test to measure real growth in this video. And lastly, the easiest way to read a book a week in the next 7 days. According to Forbes, a college professor can read this wall of text I'm about to show you in 16 seconds. All right, so get ready. I'm going to put a wall of text on the screen and time you. 3, 2, 1, begin. All right, that's time. So when we train, remember, reading is like sports. Your current form might be good, but it could be better when you try a new and improved way from me. The problem is you might initially have a drop in performance. However, please trust this process because hundreds of people have gone through what you're going through. Because with consistency and a good plan, you will outpace yourself. All right, time to test. For your first test, you will be tested and time yourself with text on the screen. And if you'd like to just have my tests time you, just go to my website at reading4results.com with the number 4, and my test there will time you right now. All right, you're about to read 2 pages from my favorite book, Positioning. Amazing marketing book. All right, go ahead and pause the video here. All right, welcome back. You did your reading test. So that was a total of 500 words. If you read that in less than a minute or at a minute, you read at or faster 500 words per minute. If it took you 2 minutes, 3 minutes, you're reading around the speed of an audiobook. So to read that entire 243-page book, depending on your brain's ability, you are in one of these groups. And pause here to test your comprehension as well. Now do this exercise I'm about to show you for the next 7 days, and you will see your reading performance increase. The exercise focuses on the 3 basics of reading you must master. For some of you, it will practically double your reading speed. Others, 10 to 30% increase. Step number 1. For the first 2 minutes of you reading, use a pen or a pacer to guide your eyes along the paper as you read. Once your brain gets used to this, you will notice a more focused reading state. This is called the reading pacer. So if you're tired of reading a page over and over and over again, this helps solve that. Pause the video, grab a physical book, and try this for at least a minute. All right, welcome back. Now research has shown that skilled readers have more rhythmic eye movement versus unskilled readers are more erratic and all over the place. Step number 2, stop looking at each individual word. Try reading groups of words. For the next 2 minutes, grab a physical book and try to read groups of words by relaxing your eyes instead of looking at each individual word. This is called chunking. Not many people know that our eyes are not moving smoothly across the page. They're actually jumping around on your page. Now we're going to use this to our advantage by chunking. So check out this image here. It's kind of hard for our brain to look at words and visualize them individually. They're very abstract. But when we look at the groups of words, it gives our brain more information, more chunks for us to actually process, maybe even visualize. Now this makes reading much more engaging, much more memorable, and actually helps us use our working memory. Most readers are actually exhausted when they read because they jump their eyes so many times. For some people, it's putting them to sleep or causing eye strain. Your brain actually prefers more information with every visual glance. Why does this work? Because it forces your brain to switch processing streams. Neuroscientists know that we have 2 information streams that we use when we read. When you look at one word at a time or you're learning a new word, you are using the phonological route in your brain. This is the dorsal stream in your brain, that green section. Now having to sound out each individual word is not necessary. Now that bottom section, that's the ventral stream that is activated, that is more visual reading, and even the CIA knows about visual reading in their speed reading programs. Step number 3, stop sounding out each individual word out loud or in your head. For the last 2 minutes of your exercise, I want you to minimize the voice in your head as you read. This is called subvocalization. Notice I did not say eliminate the voice in your head entirely. School taught us to sound out each individual out loud loud or in our head for maximum comprehension. From eyes to sounding it out to processing it in our mind. A book called The Psychology of Reading noticed that skilled readers subvocalize less than the unskilled reader. And this study has shown that the part of the brain responsible for subvocalization has less activity in skilled readers when they read. And even the CIA's declassified speed reading programs documentation shows that they knew you could recognize words without having to sound them out loud. Ready for a quick test? I will flash a sentence on the screen. Go ahead and look here. All right, here we go. All right, I hope you got that, but that forced you to not sound out each individual word. And now we want to do that with our reading. Flash, 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 flash. All right, so a big thing you will notice is that your brain will get really good at deciding what parts of the text on the page are more information dense. Meaning you will get really good at jumping and spending more time or less time on parts of a wall of text. All right, your next exercise is try the no reading exercise. All right, so all you're going to do is grab a book, slowly look at the words, move your eyes over them, and do not let your brain read it. Keep a silent mind. All right, so I want you to try this. Pause the video here, and all you're going to do is just look at the words like you're looking at white paint on a wall. And you're going to look at the word, but not sound anything out. So go ahead and pause the video now, and then we'll talk. You really actually need to try this. It's a very mind-boggling experience. I'll wait. All right, welcome back. Now that you tried the exercise, what you might have noticed is that the words float into your brain anyway. You didn't even try to read, and then it got processed. And that is because there's a lot of pre-conscious processing that comes with reading. It's just so many people don't tap into that, and they force mechanical sounding it out loud. Okay, so now I want you to try to pause the video again. Now smoothly allow that reading experience to happen where you're not meticulously sounding everything out. You're just glancing. You don't need to go fast. I just want you to go smooth and slow. Smooth, slow, and steady. So there are actually 2 levels to this exercise. All right, so that's your 3-step exercise I really want to see you apply for the next 7 days. All right, consistency is important here. And as you do this exercise every day, slightly increase the speed just by like 5 or 10%. And if you have difficulty with books, try reading the book as you listen to an audiobook at the same time. Now, if I were you watching this video, I'd want to know if the guy who's sharing his knowledge actually has proof of results for other people like me. So let me quickly go through that for you. Deanna not only reads faster, she retains it. Now, Josh went from non-reader to reading 78 books in 2.5 years while running his 8-figure painting business called 1-800-Albright Painting over in LA. Marcos now reads a book every other week. Savada, another 8-figure business owner who's scaling past $50 million, read 6 books in 6 weeks. And there's plenty of more proof that this works. Now, if you read slow, forget what you read, or fall asleep when you read, it's actually not your fault. Did you know our own government recognized our school system sucks at teaching people how to read? And instead of fixing it, they invested heavily into scientific reading laboratories and launched secret speed reading programs. Because of this, the CIA trained their employees to become speed readers. So while the secret elite only got smarter, American literacy rates have only worsened. Now, the CIA determined most reading problems are systemic, and their results from training are pretty insane. You could pause this video and see the jumps in reading speed that are 2 to 3 times faster than the average American, sitting at around 238 words per minute. And if you also look, you can see their comprehension is pretty high too. The biggest thing to note here is that the CIA's incentive was that they want increased effectiveness of their employees, and the only way to do that is make sure they are productive, fast, efficient readers. Now, all the documents are actually completely accessible for you. You can go read the 205 pages, but I made this video to grab the parts of their documentation that you can't really apply or pieces that are missing. So don't worry, this video helps you actually apply that CIA knowledge. Having a working reading system is exactly what I have achieved. What used to take me 5 hours to read, I can now do in 1. But this would have never happened if I didn't question my learning preferences and my learning speed. Look at these stacks of books. Depending on your reading speed, you are in one of these stacks of books. Which stack do you want to be in? For the next 10 years, which version of you is more likely to earn with their mind? Version 1. The version of you that reads a book a week for 10 years straight, people have actually achieved this. Version 2. The version of you that just buys books but never finishes them. Earn with your mind, not your time. Layla Hermosi has said she's read over over 1,000 books, and Alex Hormozy buys about 50 books a year. Even Dan Martell in 2025 told me he's read over 1,600 books, and he is worth over $100 million. So when you see 99% of people going one way, you should go the other. Third, the 10 most common reading comprehension blockers. So go ahead and pause here and diagnose which blockers do you think you have here? But I'm gonna give you one mental model that helps boost reading speed, comprehension, and memory. And it's called PQRST. Now, I simplified this mental model, but even the CIA uses this method as well. They just call it something a little different. Preview, read 3 to 5 summaries of any book before you read a book. You need to know what you're about to get into. You need to prime the brain logically and emotionally. 2, questions. What are 3 to 5 questions you have for this book that you cannot answer unless you read the book? 3 is R, which is read, and then ST, summarize and test. Those are pretty simple. You shouldn't be reading alone. You should be talking to people about your books. If you have no one to talk to about your books, what kind of people are you surrounding yourself with? You need to be around readers. 4, 3 secret lies about reading you probably believe. Lie number 1, learning medium. Now, the learning medium you choose needs to give us a lot of information quickly and efficiently. But how do we know which learning medium to choose when there's so many options? It's like information overload. The most information dense option is still books. Now, slow readers love audiobooks because their focus, their reading speed, and memory are blocking them. But if you get good at those 3, you can read books faster than an audiobook at 2 times speed. Now, I have to say, there's no point in learning quickly if your comprehension and memory are weak. You learn to remember, right? Here's how your memory is better when you read from a physical book. Now, studies have shown that reading from a physical book beats reading from screens and beats audiobooks. And this is because we see more stimulation with spatial memory, specifically parietal lobe. Audiobooks severely lack these advantages. Even if you're an audible learner, which is a disproven myth, go look at decades of learning research that has disproven this. Now, this study also found that students who read from the physical chapter versus students who listened to an audiobook version of the chapter, the readers just did better. Like, think about it in school. Did you listen to an audiobook version of the textbook, or did you actually read the physical textbook, take notes, see the images, have more stimulation of the senses, which is what is really needed from passive listening to actual active reading? Lie number 2, reading slow is somehow better. It turns out this idea that we have that reading slowly improves comprehension is actually false. You need to read at a reasonable pace, otherwise your brain will just go to sleep when you read. The 2001 study shows that slow reading actually starves your working memory. You're not giving it enough information, so there's not as much of a reason to be focused, so you fall asleep. Let's see what more reading scientists have to say. Now, this is from a meta-analysis of 190 studies totaling over 18,000 participants, and they said there is no support in research for the popular notion that the slow reader is superior in comprehension. And because I'm not only going to use just one source, Adrian John said it was well known that readers read at different speeds and that faster ones tended to understand what they were reading at least as well as the slower ones. Reading above 600 words per minute puts you in the top 11% of readers, according to this 2023 study on 2,200 participants. And reading around 238 words per minute is average for the American. And anything above 1,000 words per minute does not have conclusive evidence that that is possible, so I'm not going to say you can or cannot reach those speeds. Now, it's safe to say that slow reading is not the superior method when boosting comprehension. But what if you don't have time to read? Lie number 3. I don't have time to read. Busy schedules can make it very difficult to find the time to read. But don't take it from me. Listen to author, YouTuber, business owner Patrick Bet-David on the subject.
Do we still read a lot?
Oh yeah. I don't have a choice.
How do you find the time? Where, like, okay, you got to walk me through how you're reading all these books, because I probably don't have half the things you have going on. And we have actually a book club in our morning group, and we read like a chapter every day. But I don't have nearly as much as you have going on. Where are you finding the time? Is it audio? Is it?
Yeah, so it would be audio, it would be book, it would be, but it's if I'm reading a biography, I can get it in audio and listen to a 2.0 speed. I can get that done, no problem. If I'm reading a business strategy book, I can't listen to it. I have to read it because I need to be focused on how you do X, Y, Z. But if it's autobiography and it's a storytelling, you're kind of staying with the narrator. I can't do the business books that way. And then with podcast prep, content, research, kids are asleep at 9:30, 10 o'clock. I got a couple hours to do what I'm doing there. And then drive time, you'd be amazed how much you have with drive time, travel, flying. But more than anything else, if you stay in curious mode, it's not how do you do it. It's like food. You know, how do you find 3 times a day or 4 times a day to eat? You're feeding yourself. So the same way you're feeding your belly, you're feeding your mind as well. We don't ask the question, how do we find time to eat? But we ask the question, how do we find time to read books? Where it needs to be the other way around. How do you find time to eat? Because you're definitely going to priority between the two. If you really looked at them the same way, we have plenty of time to read.
Why do some CEOs have the time to read, but others don't? Is it really a lack of time, or is something else involved? All these voracious readers, if they're just looking at money, they could pay someone else to read for them. Yet they still read. Their hourly consulting rate is insane. They could make so much more money, but they still read. What does that say about what reading is really worth? For the next 10 years, you could take the blue pill or the red pill. The blue pill, choice B, you spend your last working hour in your business. Or choice A, you spend your last working hour reading, aka on your business, your mind. And you do this every day for the next 10 years. This decision is locked in once you take one of these pills. Which one do you choose? Which repeated choice will take you farther in the next 10 years? Which repeated reading habit will take you farther in the next 10 years? These guys are busier than you, they're richer than you, yet they still find the time to read. Do you think them saying, I don't have the time to read, is in their vocabulary? Reading time is absolutely priceless when we just look at their consulting hourly rate and their decisions with reading. They still read. Now, they read and spend the time on reading because they know how it trains and enhances their prefrontal cortex. They look at their brain like a walking ChatGPT. The more information they feed their data set in their mind, the better decisions they make. 5, a final test to measure real performance growth. So I'm about to have you test yourself with text on the screen with your own phone timer, or if you don't want to do that, you want my timer to do it for you, go to my website again at readingforresults.com and test yourself. All right, and you're about to read from one of my favorite books on high performance by Steven Kotler. All right, go ahead and pause the video here, test your comprehension here, and check your results here. So to read that entire 336-page book, you would be in one of these groups, slow, average, or fast. Hopefully your reading speed has improved, but nonetheless, you have learned the basics of speed reading. But without this one thing, everything you've learned is useless. This one thing is what separates the top 1% of readers from the crowd. It will almost guarantee you read a book a week. And that one thing is an unbreakable reading habit. That looks like you reading every single day. You don't have to force yourself to read. You enjoy it. You look forward to it. It energizes you. For many of you, reading speed is not actually your problem. Did you know if you only read 10 pages a day, you'd be reading a book a month? You don't need to know how to speed read to read 10 pages a day. That's why a reading habit is so important. So if you know the importance of a reading habit, but you struggle to install it into your busy schedule, click this video here or down below to learn how I help CEOs in my Reading Accelerator.